the problem is that people are sick. And when patients are trying to help patients, there's a lot of people who just can't make it. Great intentions are often not enough. You know, someone's got to water plants every day. Someone's got to do all of the work that it takes to do that. And so what happened in about the year 2001 was the Green Cross Collective co-op had received an order from the Seattle Police Department to cease and desist. They had been operating out of a residence and had received hundreds of complaints from the neighborhood, and they were forced to shut down for a month or so. At that time, my fledgling Lifeline group exploded to over 400 patients, which is not much compared to, of course, to the Oakland group, but it's an awful lot for the small staff that we had. It was too much. We couldn't really sustain the number of people without a large group of non-patients helping, and we were trying to remain strictly self-supportive. So over the course of a few years, the group has shrunk in size. However, the people who are involved in the Lifeline group are very, I won't say desperate, but that is the underlying factor. These are people who cannot grow for themselves. The theory of the Washington state law, of course, is that patients are allowed to grow for themselves. But giving someone the freedom and a couple of seeds does not allow them to get up out of a wheelchair or whatever their physical disability may be and perform all the physical operations required to produce marijuana. So therefore, you know, it's a balance. It's a difficult situation. We need more people to help. But we do have the law, which is a factor that we always have to conform to. I wrote a book called The New Prescription, which outlines a lot of the science for medical marijuana. Up until the year 2000 when it was published, we're going to revise this book. It'll be out in a year or so. But the medical editor on this first edition, Dr. Francis Podenberg, was a patient also. And he helped establish the Lifeline group originally. He always said that he would never stop his work until he could get marijuana from a pharmacy on the corner. And, you know, that's noble, and there are great results happening here in California to help not just legitimize, but institutionalize, integrate the medical marijuana dispensaries in society, and I'm all for that. However, there's a broad range of motivations behind what we were doing here. For me personally, it's also about freedom. Freedom from the pharmaceutical companies and freedom from the pharmacies. And therefore, the law that we have in Washington may be very difficult for dispensaries to operate as they do in California, yet it does offer the freedom. Washington State does uphold individual rights of freedom in a substantial way, which is why I live there. And we have this freedom if we can manage to do the work to produce the medicine. The small group of patients who are helping each other is surviving, and we do really appreciate the great margin of the spectrum of people who are doing the works here in California. This sets a great example for us who are just a few people trying to struggle through. But we're networking, and we are duplicating, and we also provide, we provide lessons, and we provide information, and we provide lighting equipment and other supplies, and I'm trying to also provide information, because the biggest problem, of course, is that no one knows how to grow marijuana. It's an art that you learn over the course of experience. I'm trying to help teach people how to take care of themselves. Of course, we all know the cliche, if you feed someone, you feed them for a day, but if you teach them to farm, you feed them for life. I'm offering a DVD series, which is in development now. This is the first disc, which is called The Miracles of Marijuana, and it outlines some factors of patient use, which are very important these days in negotiations with authorities over cultivation amounts, which is the big bone of contention. I've spent a lot of time in courtrooms for myself and for other people about the amount of marijuana involved. That's the biggest scary factor, is that you're allowing people to manufacture drugs. You know, of course, it's okay for the microbreweries, which are a big part of society in Seattle, but opening up for marijuana is a bit harder. We're trying. We have a store that we're opening up, but the problem is, again, the difference between the patients and the recreational users who, you know, are a bit jealous, and of course someone wants to pretend to be severely ill to get this right, but the police are a problem because they're always trying to catch us. I've been under surveillance in my office for months at a time. Green Cross is inspected every month. They're, you know, they don't want to lose control of us. So it's a delicate balance, and we're trying to learn. We're trying to stay alive. That's our main motivation. We really appreciate all the support, and I'm hoping that we will hear from some of you folks at cannabismd.org. We need to hear about the news from all over California and all over the state, and stay in touch and work together. We're doing great works, all of us, and I thank you all.
Thank you, Martin, for sharing your experiences and your important work. The next speaker is a student at UC Berkeley, also Joan Madonna, and she's presenting some research that she's done.
So, I am not a patient, I'm just a pot smoker. I've known about pot since I was a little girl. I grew up in Oklahoma. My mother smoked pot. I always thought she was really weird. So I come from the outside. I'm a cultural geographer, and so I did analysis of the landscapes of cannabis in Amsterdam compared to what's happening in the Bay Area. And as you can see, I claim that they're hiding in plain view. I've been in San Francisco for 12 years, and I saw the first dispensary in 96, 97. I was so happy. Yay, they're selling pot to people that need it because they're sick. The last couple of years, they proliferated. There's so many in San Francisco, and I'm like, why are they hiding? They're legal. Everyone should know they're there. I can tell they're there. The smell, the codes, the green, the pot leaves, I can tell they're there. I think everyone should be able to see that they're there. So, as a cultural geographer, I believe that the landscape is both a representation of our culture, and it is also a process of social reproduction. Landscape is not static nor benign. We do not only read the landscape, but we listen to what it says about the culture that produced it, and it makes an impression upon the viewer. We all know that taboo of cannabis in the United States is socially constructed, though it is not just by governmental manipulation. Taboos are reproduced by specific practices in the landscape, but they are constantly evolving, flowing, and changes are often spawned by forces and advocacy from below. The manner in which cannabis clubs represent themselves has a powerful effect on society. At UC Berkeley, my research project compared the established, co-evolved, visible coffee shops of Amsterdam to the emerging and often hidden in plain view cannabis clubs in the Bay Area. This is a picture of a cannabis club in San Francisco. On the left is the exterior. That's the way that it looked with no signage. And on the right, I took a photo from the window the day after the DEA busted it. My study found that most of the cannabis clubs in the Bay Area emit a furtive, surreptitious presence, often with locked gate, mirrored windows, and ambiguous signage. If any signage at all, like this dispensary has none. Although there exists a legal ambiguity, that's why they try to hide, because of the legal ambiguity. Hiding in plain view offers no real protection from governmental or community hassles, obvious by this one, and I believe does more harm than good to the collective social consciousness. There's the map. So this is a map of the San Francisco dispensaries, and they're very concentrated, as you can see, in areas that I call zones of transition. They're areas that are typically supportive of social and economic experiments. I don't know if you know San Francisco very well, but there aren't any in the upper class neighborhoods. There's none in the Marina, there aren't any in Pacific Heights, and I'd like to see a map that have green crosses all over. It shouldn't just be relegated to certain neighborhoods that tolerate the behavior. I believe they should be open, welcoming spaces that every neighborhood would want them because they're part of the community.